morning, dear students, and welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to continue with our discussion of the poem Nine Gold Medals by David Roth. In this session, we are going to do stanzas 5 to 8. Now, stanza 5. He gave out a cry of frustration and anguish. His dreams and his efforts dashed in the dirt. But as sure I am standing here telling the story, now it is a strange one. But here is what occurred. Now here the key words are anguish. Anguish means extreme suffering, grief or pain. And dashed means to be ruined, to be completely destroyed. Now let us try to understand this stanza. Now here the poet says that the 8 contestants were much strong compared to the youngest contestant, and therefore they continued to run forward, while the 9th one, who was the smallest and the youngest, fell down. The moment the 9th one fell down, he cried out with the pain of disappointment. Now here it is important to be noted that the athlete was frustrated and crying out in pain because his dream of winning a medal and proving himself to the world was shattered. In fact, he had trained himself for weeks and months in order to get an opportunity in the Special Olympics. But when he fell down, he feels that he does not even get that opportunity to show his talent. All his dreams of winning a medal are broken and destroyed. His mental and emotional pain was much more than his physical pain. And the last 2 lines of this stanza, but sure as I am standing here telling the story, now it is a strange one, but here is what occurred. So these 2 lines of this stanza clearly indicates that the narrator of the poem was a spectator himself. So David Roth presents himself as a spectator. He was a part of the audience, and therefore he gives a first-hand account of what happened in that Special Olympics, or in the last event of that Special Olympics, the 100-meter race. Now, stanza 6. The 8 other athletes stopped in their tracks. The ones who had trained for so long to compete. One by one, they turned round and came back to help him and lifted the lad to his feet. Now here the key word lad. Lad here refers to a boy or young man. The athlete who had fallen down is referred to as a lad because he was the youngest and the smallest athlete competing in the 100-meter race. Now, in this stanza, the poet says that something unexpected happened at this point of the race. When the remaining 8 contestants saw the young athlete fall and heard his cry of frustration and anguish. So here you should take note that the 8 athletes who were running forward, they were actually looking ahead. How did they come to know that the youngest athlete or the smallest athlete had fallen down? They came to know about it the moment they heard the cry of anguish and pain of the youngest athlete. So when they heard his cry, they turned around. Instead of continuing the race, instead of running forward towards the realization of their dream, towards their achieving that gold medal, they stopped and they looked behind and they came forward one by one to help this young athlete to stand to his feet. Now this is quite unexpected, that these athletes who were competing against each other, who were so determined to win gold and prove themselves to the world, they suddenly stopped and came one by one to help the youngest athlete. So they gave up their hope of winning. They sacrificed their desire of winning the gold. Even though these athletes had trained hard and dreamt of winning the medal, they readily forgot about their dream and they came forward to help this young athlete stand to his feet. Now that was quite strange and unexpected. Now we move to the next stanza. Then all 9 runners joined hands and continued. The 100 meters reduced to a walk, and the banner above that said Special Olympics could not have been nearer the mark. Now here we'll do stanza 8 also together with stanza 7. That is how the race ended, with 9 gold medals. They came to the finish line holding hands still, and the banner above and 9 smiling faces said more than these words ever will, said more than these words ever will. Now let us try to understand these stanzas. You see, after helping the youngest athlete to stand to his feet, all these 9 athletes, they started walking hand in hand towards the finish line. The audience or the spectators were so much moved by the exemplary behavior of the contestants that they stood up and clapped and applauded these contestants. There were now not one winner. There were now in fact 9 winners instead of 1. And and each one was given a gold medal. All the contestants displayed empathy, turning the Special Olympics into a really special one. Now, when we are talking of empathy, let us try to understand what empathy means. Empathy means to have the capacity to understand another person's experience from one's own point of view. To state even more simply, empathy is the ability to put oneself in another's shoes. Now, when we feel sorry for others' sufferings, when we feel pity for others' sufferings, then it is called sympathy. But when we feel sorry for others' suffering and at the same time we are able to experience the other person's suffering in our own life, then it is called empathy. Now, all these athletes, they had empathy towards each other. And this is what the 8 contestants had done. The moment they looked at the fallen contestant, they could not help themselves from thinking that what would he have had done if he had fallen. So they are at once able to imagine that they also might have been like the youngest athlete. It might have been possible that they also might have fallen. Then what would have been their feelings? They start imagining that. And the moment they thought of that, they knew exactly what they were supposed to do. So they turned round, they came back, they helped the lad to stand to his feet, and they also would have expected others to help them when they might have fallen down. Therefore, all the 9 contestants were given 9 gold medals. All of them were rewarded. And by rewarding all these athletes, the authorities honored their display of empathy, their helpful nature, and human values. The act of selflessness shown by the athletes compelled the narrator to say that the banner that read Special Olympics could not have been nearer the mark. All the contestants displayed empathy, turning the Special Olympics into a really special one. Now, we'll do the critical analysis of the poem. Now, as I had informed you in the introduction, 9 Gold Medals is a poem written by the American rock vocalist, songwriter, and author David Roth that celebrates human values of cooperation, compassion, empathy, fairness, and concern. This poem reveals the story of 9 differently abled athletes who participated in a Special Olympics. In our life, we often prioritize competitions and focus on winning them at any cost, irrespective of what comes our way. However, we must acknowledge that there are even bigger things in life than just winning a competition. This poem emphasizes on the sportsmanship and kindness exhibited by these athletes that made them win a gold medal each for their exemplary behavior. The poem, when you go through the poem, you will find that the poem is written much like a story in which the poet narrates the tale of 9 young runners from all over the country. It has been recorded in the form of a song by David Roth, and Roth here takes the role of the narrator as well as a spectator, as he mentions through the line, "But as sure as I am standing here telling the story, now it is a strange one, but here is what occurred." And the poem, no doubt, is written in a very simple language. Now, the poetic devices. In this poem, poetic devices like alliteration and climax have been used by the poet to add beauty and lucidity to the language. The two main figures of speech, alliteration and climax. Now you know what alliteration is. Alliteration is the close repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the beginning of words. Examples of alliteration from the poem: his dreams and his efforts dashed in the dirt. Now if you see, there is repetition of D sound in the words dreams, dashed, dirt. But the youngest among them stumbled and staggered. In this line, there is repetition of the S sound in the word stumbled and staggered. Climax. A climax is the arrangement of ideas according to increasing order of importance. When we arrange ideas as per the increasing order of importance, then it is known as climax. When we say increasing order of importance, least important thing comes first and the most important thing comes last. The climax is usually achieved when the text leads up to an event, mood, phase, or feeling of importance. For instance, in the poem, firstly, all the athletes participate in the race. Then they help the fallen athlete, and finally, they walk together holding hands to cross the finish line. And the race ends with each runner receiving a gold medal for their noble deed. Thus we see that there is an increasing order of importance of the events. You see, the race began, okay. All the athletes participate in the Special Olympics to prove themselves important. The race started, the event started, important. The athlete fell down, very important event. And then the other 9 athletes turned around, expressed their empathy towards the fallen athlete, much more important. That is, they exhibited true sportsmanship spirit. And then finally the authorities rewarding all 9 athletes gold medal. That is even more important for their exhibition of exemplary behavior or exemplary action of selflessness. So, if you see the poem, the events are arranged in an increasing order of importance. Therefore, this is an example of climax. So that brings us to the end of the poem. If any doubt, we will take it up in the interactive session. Thank you for watching and stay blessed.